Cellular debris is directly connected to our shadow, going through a healing journey and a spiritual awakening journey. What we're doing is transmuting this cellular debris within our body, mind, spirit. The shadow is more than just when we think of our own personal shadow. It is that level of whatever has been left unresolved within our body, mind, spirit. But more than that, it takes on a far more invisible tone. It's not just the things that have happened within this lifetime that have accumulated our personal shadow. In fact, cellular debris rarely has much to do with this life at all. In the spiritual community, we have a rough and obscure understanding of what cellular memory is and what cellular miasms are. But we still don't fully understand exactly what cellular debris is and how it relates to our cellular body. So today I'm going to be explaining what cellular debris is in its metaphysical and esoteric form. So what we normally know about cellular debris is its very functional and metabolic processes. What this means is that cellular debris, on a very physical and physiological level, is the process of whatever is left over from a methylation process and whatever is left over from some sort of larger cellular process. So once something goes through a few sequences or metabolic processes, this ends up accumulating what's called cellular waste. So it's kind of like the skin or the shedding of whatever that process was created. So when we're looking at kind of like nutrients in the body and then the waste that we need to eliminate from gaining those nutrients, that's kind of like on a micro level what's going on with cellular waste. The cellular processes inside our body all add up, and once they create enough of a proper function that sheds a skin, and that shedding of that skin is whatever is discarded and no longer needed. And that's what cellular waste is, and that is the most functional term for cellular debris. So that's mainly what cellular debris is known as. But of course, if there's something that is very simple and self-evident that we can examine happening inside the body-mind, then you better believe that there is some sort of esoteric and deeply metaphysical property that's going on behind the scenes. And so there is cellular debris at a very functional level, and then there is cellular debris at a very more spiritual and even a far more esoteric level. Cellular debris is the remnants of our former incarnations that had not been fully transmuted during the purification process in between incarnations. It is best described as the dross, or former lifetimes, that was not consciously processed. Debris and dross look very similar, and this forms a half-animated silhouette that is the former husk of an astral body, similar to how a snake sheds its skin. It is made up of burning yearning. I am not even kidding. It is the sheer yearning for what will bring it into balance from being in the victim-perpetrator cycle. It is unrest, deprived, and if it were to be experienced as a sensation, it would be likened to intense yearning at a visceral level. So, to be clear, cellular debris is from a person's former astral bodies that were not fully dissolved and metabolized in between lifetimes, which can happen for a number of reasons. I'll name a few here, but it can be a number of reasons even beyond this list. A deeply held dream that was never experienced that led to an intense longing. All forms of longing in general. Extreme indulgence in anything that formed a strong attachment to the material plane. Extreme attachment to lower states of consciousness that formed a strong attraction to the elemental forces here. not being able to process all the karmic mirrors in life review from being an objective perpetrator in a lifetime. So cellular debris is the remnants of what was still attached and for one reason or the other in a state of pain because of that attachment. That is why this same concept is also known as the pain body. The pain body is a very popular term that goes perfectly with the description of cellular debris and even the doppelganger of our astral body. The pain body was coined by Eckhart Tolle and represents the negative emotions we have identified with and formed an unconscious attachment to. Cellular debris is directly connected to our shadow. So when we're talking about going through a healing journey and a spiritual awakening journey, what we're doing is transmuting the cellular debris within our body, mind, spirit. And so when we're talking about what the shadow is, it's more than just when we think of our own personal shadow, but it's still connected to that. It is that level of the shadow. So that level of whatever has been left unresolved within our body, mind, spirit. But more than that, it takes on a far more invisible tone. And so it's not just the things that have happened within this lifetime that have accumulated our personal shadow. In fact, cellular debris rarely has much to do with this life at all. It's directly linked with the victim-perpetrator cycle that creates a strong stimulation that we know as karma and addiction. So when we're talking about the strengthening of the victim-perpetrator cycle, or what many of us know as the victim-rescuer-perpetrator cycle, what this does is create very large and intense impulses within us. And what those impulses mainly want are to be healed and resolved, but they don't always look that way. So when we're feeling into what cellular debris is, the shadow that we're here to transmute, it's actually the deep level of over and imbalanced extreme stimulation that's coming from playing out very intense oppositional roles, otherwise known as karma. Now, there are many ways to transmute cellular debris. One of the easiest ways is through deep breathwork sessions. So if you have no other resources, all you have to do is look up any form of breathwork that you resonate with. Some are more intense, some are less intense. It won't matter. It will be about your resonance. But there are many different ways to go deeper into transmuting cellular debris. And it's not just through only one exact way. There's almost every type of healing aspect that we have at our availability in this age is going to heal cellular debris. It's going to transmute it, even if it didn't know it. Because awareness is also linked to the transmutation of cellular debris. And so anything we're doing towards healing, whatever activity it is going to also be able to engage our awareness within it. And when it comes to specifically what forms of cellular debris we carry personally inside our body, mind, spirit, that's going to be dependent on many different things that we won't even have memory and therefore access to. So you won't need to know exactly what is going on within your cellular debris, where it came from, what its story is, because the soul's journey is one that is long and endless. And because of that, all we're given is all we will ever need right now to be able to heal, awaken, evolve. And so if a person doesn't remember exactly where their cellular debris had accumulated from, that is not necessary then. It will be fun to be able to go about learning all of that stuff if a person chooses to, but what I'm emphasizing is it's not necessary. To better understand what cellular debris is, first, let's decompress what cellular debris is not. And what cellular debris is not is an aspect of our own psyche that is split. That is literally called a psychic split. So that is its own thing. But all these terms, they go together. They just don't go together exactly, and meaning that they're the same exact thing. Why it's important to know the difference, even if it's a nuanced difference between what cellular memory is and what cellular debris is, or even what a wounded inner child aspect of us is because cellular debris is what is happening inside our aura and our energy field and what is being transmuted that we came in with. The shadow incarnate can be looked at as a doppelganger, literally, of us. Meaning that if we're in this realm and we're presenting ourselves one way, then this cellular debris or this doppelganger is almost like a picture, how a picture has a negative of it, and it's still all the information that's contained within us, but now it's the negative version of it on the film strip. And that's what the doppelganger or the cellular debris is. It's this aspect or this archetype that's inside our energy field that carries inside it all of the memory or all of the experiences even of when it was a strong victim and perpetrator. Because what you'll notice is that whenever there's a strong perpetrator energy, it always somehow becomes a victim. And so none of this is talking about genuine victims. This episode's just not about that. What I'm talking about is when the victim energy is encapsulated and enmeshed deeply inside a strong perpetrator energy that can even be linked to have been fallen, that is expressing itself through strong impulses that are best described as addictions, because even being a part of the victim perpetrator cycle at a very strong karmic degree, strong addictions and even impulses of strong methods to self-destruct. So whether that's just by producing a lot of turmoil or producing a lot of conflict, because it has this very enmeshed, very entrapped energy into specifically the third dimension. And so when it's feeding off of conflict for the sake of conflict, or it's expressing itself in extremely self-destructive ways, or once again, if it's coming from strong predator energy, these are all these different ways that this is cellular debris. And so one of the ways that you can tell that you're healing it when you're on a spiritual awakening journey or when you're healing is when you're not sensing a lot of stimulation. Now that's okay if we experience highs and lows. This isn't against highs and lows. This isn't against excitement. This isn't against sadness. But what you'll notice is that you will go through phases of having less stimulation, even boredom. And that's a sign of your body, mind, spirit balancing out and recalibrating its entire energy field once it's shed and transmuted a lot of this cellular debris. Because if cellular debris is linked to really intense extremes of opposites, ups and downs, victim, perpetrator, all these forms of tension and conflict, then what you're going to be experiencing is the opposite of that, which is a sense of peace. And so even though this experience here is so fruitful and rich in all of its tones, whether it's peaceful, whether it's a high or a low, there's a distinct energy signature of when it's coming from the cellular debris. And when we're healing, we're gonna start getting a lot more used to internal peace, which is that, yes, we will go through highs and lows still. We will go through peak states and we will go through the depths of the lowest tier. And all of that is rich. And yet at the same time, we're going to be adding a new feature, which is we're going to have those internal segments of peace and tranquility. And that's what we're in training our energy field into, because the cellular debris has only known really intense, hyper-dimensional states of conflict and of drama. And so we're actually teaching it that it can still exist. We can still be. We could even still be on a journey. We could even still be growing and becoming without large and intense levels of drama that lead to trauma. I hope this has helped transmute some of your cellular debris. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakenings. See you next time.